Well, let's see. You think it will last, Feroz?
You know, for the last 40 years, the political class has been able to, in a way, believe that it's convinced the people of this country that they have to internalize corruption, as if it is a lubricant that makes the governments function. And they believed that now the younger generation, they believe, is a kind of a self-centered, selfish generation, and it may not have anything to do with it, and it's something that the older generation is an obsession, and it is very yesterday. Now, this is the roadblock that they've gone into. They have realized that all the assumptions of the younger generation are absolutely misplaced, because for them, a corrupt India is a great embarrassment, and that jeopardizes their future. And for them, they want an India, not just an India in terms of all the other apparent sort of progress that it makes, but at its core value, it has to be
so you think
an honest India.
Among those people out there are some people who are saying, what happened to Kalmadi? Will Raja get away once again? Why does Kalmadi walk in and out of the CBI office as if he's another day at work?
But that is exactly the reason is the former, the cynicism.
Is there a corporate politician nexus that we don't know all about?
That is exactly the cynicism. And that's the reason the rage that is coming in from on the streets is that they believe that in the end, the powerful are going to get away with it. And there seems to be a nexus because the political class has never put corruption on its agenda. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the last 40 years, except for the euphoria of VP Singh with Bofors, it has never been there.
You know, one of our tweets, someone writing into us, his name is Kiran Basawa, is tweeting, he says, I live in Bahrain, I'm watching Jantar Mantar live, and I feel I should have been there in India to make me count on that. You know, there are Indians all over the world who are connecting to this somewhere. Timing is of course significant, but Arvind Kejriwal has been spearheading this movement. He joins us now from Jantar Mantar. Arvind, tonight I also want to spend some time discussing the pros and cons of this bill with you. But first, what do you think of this movement and where it started? Did you think it would rise to this point when you started out 2 days back?
Arnab, the first surprise for us was when we did that rally on 30th January. At that time, we had planned for a rally for 3,000 people, but 30,000 people landed up at Ramlila grounds. And spontaneously, rallies took place in 62 places. At that time, we realized that there was so much of anger in the country that if we demanded specific systemic changes, the people might join in and rally behind it. So that's how the demand for Jan Lokpal bill has grown. And now, frankly, we did not expect this kind of overwhelming response of the people. I am frankly quite overwhelmed by whatever the response has been so far. Yesterday, more than 450 places in the country, Anshan took place. And today, here, along with Anna Hazare, 160 people are sitting on fast unto death in Delhi alone. I don't know how many people are sitting across the country on fast unto death.
How will you ensure politicians don't hijack it? We already saw 2 politicians walking in. How are you going to ensure politicians don't hijack this?
You see, I don't think there is any danger because so far in 2 days, the reaction of the public to the politicians has not been very encouraging. And secondly, we had a meeting in the morning, all the volunteers, and we decided that we will not be rude or we will not misbehave with anyone. If any politician comes, we will ask him to sit in the audience and listen to the speakers and support and go back. But today when some of these politicians came, there was so much of crowd at Jantar Mantar that we had absolutely no control over them. So they were actually chased away by the people. The anger of the people was so much. So I don't think there is any danger of any politician or party hijacking it.
Okay. Srivatsa Krishna is joining me from Bangalore, who's a bureaucrat on deputation right now, has some concerns about your bill. And Srivatsa, I want you to, point by point, I want you to make one point, then I want Arvind to respond, then we'll debate it. What is your biggest problem with the bill that Arvind and Anna Hazare are drafting today? The People's or Jan Lokpal bill?
Arnab, unlike Arvind, who's resigned from the IRS, I'm a serving officer and I'm here in my personal capacity. I'd like to preface my comments with that. I think the bill is exemplary and this marks India's second war for independence has begun. The first was for self-governance and this is for good governance. And all power and strength to Anna Hazare, Arvind and Kiran, who are spearheading collective action among good people, which is so hard to bring about. Having said that, while the pendulum today has swung one side and there's rampant corruption, we must ensure that the Jan Lokpal bill does not allow the pendulum to swing too far the other side. Let me give you one example. E. Sridharan, who's an icon and an exemplar person of personal integrity, gave Delhi Metro. There are numerous CAG reports which talk about the violations done by Delhi Metro. And there are enormous procedural violations which have been done by Sridharan in Delhi Metro. I, for one, as a researcher of infrastructure, believe that the Delhi Metro would not have come about but for Sridharan having done these violations. So should a Jan Lokpal bill immediately, without seeking sanction for prosecution, go after someone merely because the CAG report says there are procedural violations? Far from it. So I think what we need is a nuanced strategy. We should not throw the baby out with the bathwater, and a two-pronged approach is required. One, we should continue to have permissions sought for prosecuting civil servants in cases where distinct mens rea cannot be proved. Nowhere in the world, I've looked at laws in America, in Indonesia, in Singapore, in the Scandinavian countries. Nowhere in the world do you go after notings on files and say that this bureaucrat is corrupt because he wrote this. Trace the money. Our quality of forensic evidence and forensic investigation needs enormous improvement. We need to trace the money, and where money has been traced, do not take sanctions for permission.
No, but it's Scandinavian.
But in all other cases,
I want Arvind to now respond to what you said, but I must say that in Scandinavian countries, the ombudsman has the power to prosecute erring public servants. We are nowhere close to that in India. Arvind, you would like to respond to what Srivastava said. Let me get a response first. He's saying don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I just want to say that I think Mr. Krishnan has misunderstood that provision. All that we have said, that today Controller and Auditor General of India audits so many departments and no action is taken on their reports. Some of those things make it to the parliament, but most of the paras don't even make it to the parliament. In parliament, nothing happens to those reports. So all that we have suggested is that the CAG, wherever it feels that a case is made out on corruption or for vigilance matter, will refer that matter to the Lokpal. So don't you have faith in the CAG? Do you want a separate body to prosecute sanction? Number one. So CAG is a constitutional authority. He is a retired, most of the time retired secretary to the government of India. He is going to apply his mind. Number two, once he forwards these cases to Lokpal, Lokpal will not accept it on its face value. Lokpal will do its own investigations.
Is that the only worry you have, Krishna?
Arnab, the point I'm trying to make is it can very easily be misused, and it can be used. I'm not saying it will be. It can potentially become a tool to harass the honest. The cost of indecision and delays, killing initiatives among honest public servants, the cost of that can be as high as the cost of corruption. So my request to Arvind and to all those in this movement is, please ensure the pendulum does not swing too far the other side, so that in your quest to seek justice and wanting to throw out the provisions of seeking permission for prosecution, do not do away with it altogether, because it can be used to harm the honest public servant.
Point noted. But have we really come to that? Yes. Yes, Meghnad Desai. No, have we come to that? Have we even come to that? Yes.
Arnab, the point is, this pendulum is not swinging at all, rather than swinging too far. What we are right now debating is a pendulum right now is entirely in favor of the corrupt. Let the people try and move it half the way. Don't worry about swinging it too far. We haven't got any action for 42 years, and people are complaining about going too far. What is this?
Yeah, that's truly the case. For example, just taking one example here, and Jay Panda, I want you to come in on this. You know, the government bill, the government proposal does not talk of investigation of complaints against judges, against the judiciary. You know, Lokpal will have powers to initiate investigations on complaint of corruption against judges. Do you think the judiciary will be generous enough to allow, without legal, questions being raised and pinpricks raised, that level of scrutiny against their own?
Well, I hope that
yes, Mr. Panda.
Is this to me or not?
No, that's to Mr. Panda, yes. Mr. Panda, go ahead.
I hope that the judiciary will take a bigger view that a lot of radical change is necessary. And I don't think anybody can dispute that corruption is not.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
So I don't think any public servant should be exempt. And I hope that the judiciary will take a broader, bigger view of this.
No, because tonight issue is simply this. We know what government committees are for. Mr. Panda, the citizen of this country has seen through government committees, subcommittees. We know what had happened to the women's bill for a decade and a half. We know what has happened in this case. Are you willing to give that time? Tomorrow, if the government says, okay, we'll have a committee, we'll have a discussion, we promise you that we will investigate the possibility of a committee. Is that enough to call off the protest?
Definitely not.
I think we should be skeptical about committees, and I think we should recognize the fact that often ideas are killed by sending them to committee. But the fact is, we have a political process in our democracy, and we can't bypass that. We need to co-opt what is happening at Jantar Mantar today. I have already come out and said that I am in favor of most of the proposals made by Anna Hazare. But the fact is, this must go to Parliament to get passed as an act. You can't avoid that. So we must put it up to the standing committee that deals with this, and then it should go to Parliament. But I think we should take strength from the movement that is happening at Jantar Mantar, because it will give strength to those of us inside Parliament who wish to adopt some of these measures.
Well, I think that's in a minority tonight. Yes, Meghnad Desai. Yes, Mr. Desai.
I think people have to stop traffic in every big town. They really have to register their anger and actually bring the nation to a halt. That will be very green, I think, anyway. But unless something happens which makes people think that this is a very serious proposition, a peaceful fast is not going to be enough. No matter 150 people do it, 300 people do it. The anger has got to be expressed by peaceful protest, which actually will disrupt activity.
Now, what
I'm
are you
a great
suggesting?
believer in that.